This is Chris Vaughn. Welcome to episode 5 of the In Her Company podcast. Other episodes will be interspersed throughout, but as a reminder, we're taking a different approach this season. We've labeled 2024 our handbook year, as we're beginning by disseminating information in podcast format for women to use anywhere, anytime as a guide to gain clarity and a better idea of where she's headed to next, whether she engages us or not. We're putting action behind our belief that women are needed more now than ever to step into place, along with the solutions they carry. If we are to become better catalysts for ourselves and each other, then clarity becomes increasingly important because it informs our next steps, determines whether we're aligned, and allows us to move forward in a meaningful rather than haphazard way. So, today's special mini training touches on alignment and what stops us from being so. Are you on par? This is a question I periodically ask women I work with. It is as much as a status check as well as a check-in, a point for them to determine where they are in relation to their plan of action, as well as their alignment internally, or whether they veered off unintentionally toward an outcome leading to something else. It's also a fail-safe, so they don't expend precious resources going too far down unintended roads, and ensures their focus hasn't yielded to piecework or chasing the wind over process and impact. By the way, did you know veering off can be a form of settling? People don't realize that because there's activity, they're in motion. And the thought is that if you're in motion and your calendar is full, then you're making progress, right? But that can be dangerous. Unfocused action does not equal productivity. It's one thing to do that for a few days, but a few weeks, a few months, it can become a habit, a way of being, like hitting a wall over and over without knowing why. Activity rich, but poor results. So I looked up PAR. The definition that we're most familiar with relates to golf. The number of strokes a first class player should normally make for a particular hole or course. Coming in under par, for example, 5 under par, means a higher performance, that you took fewer strokes than average. There's also a definition in economics where par is the value of a country's currency in terms of another, and in chemistry where par is a substitution of opposite carbon atoms, but I'll just stop there with that one. So regardless of definition, par has connotations of performance, value, and substitution. In this segment, we're using PAR as an acronym, so go grab your notebook. Before we get into it, I want to share something a friend did with me a while ago. It's a Buddhist fable called The Raft. Now, severely paraphrasing, throughout life, we build rafts to carry us and everything we've gained up to that point. The purpose of rafts is to take us across the water to the land we'll venture next. The problem is, most of us carry the raft with us instead of leaving it at the shore where its purpose was fulfilled. So P is for preparation. It's a standpoint of looking back and taking account. What can we discard for a better journey? To travel lighter, to stay agile and open to opportunity, but also for the sake of creativity. Preparation is about making room for what's to come. Some areas to consider may be items, processes, workflows that leave you feeling stagnated rather than energized, or no longer work for where you are, or serve your current direction or intention. What used to work once upon a time may not work for you now. You don't have to cling to them. It's okay to let them go. Also, our decision making. Are we making new decisions that'll move us forward or recycling old decisions in a new way? Don't be stubborn in this area. You deserve to progress. Digitally, digitally detoxing. How about putting your inbox on a diet? Unsubscribe from emails, newsletters, memberships that no longer align with who you are or where you're headed. There are better ways to spend the time it takes to delete emails, and a cleaner inbox will make it easier to locate the info you do want instead of contribute to mental clutter. Same with clothing or anything else that has built up. And boundaries. What have you put in place to protect your margin that we discussed in episode 4? And reinforce your intentions so you don't reclaim the things you've discarded. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be as simple as deciding if the space you created will benefit you or be consumed by someone else. Time is a non renewable commodity. Things can get real uncomfortable when a woman experiences change, then tries to stay where she is. The two are incompatible. The new version of yourself won't constrict itself to who you are now. So why continue to squelch yourself to fit in places you soon will or have already outgrown? Changes that stick happen internally first. Mindset, perspective, items addressed in previous episodes. Often, people sense something's different before they visibly see it, and that causes friction, not because of you, but because of expectations they had of the person you used to be that are no longer being met. And in long term relationships, like family and friends, this is especially true if you've taken on responsibilities that weren't yours. It may be cumbersome initially, but it'll take time for them to readjust to carrying their own weight, and any attempts to get things back to normal, like knocking on your door when you're in a meeting, misplacing easily found items, or urgently needing you for things they haven't before. It's not necessarily intentional, though. It's that responsibility has shifted. And regardless if they do so or not, that responsibility is still theirs. God doesn't place more on us than we can bear, but we do it to ourselves all the time. So help them become better versions of themselves too by staying your course. With prepared, you look back and take inventory of what's needed to move ahead. But A is for alignment. Alignment is forward looking and where value is housed. It is about your responses or actions and decisions that support one another, your trajectory and vision. In other words, according to what you value. Alignment can also change your perception of now. You've heard it said that the way forward reveals itself as we go, and our vision becomes clearer upon approach. But that's often affected by our understanding of where we are now. For example, right now, if I look out my office window, I see my neighbors' homes across the street beyond that, and a forest beyond that in a straight line. But when I go walking, the path is such that I can't walk in a straight line. The closer I get, I see individual trees instead of a forest, but I also lose sight of our house. Likewise, when we make decisions, we set a course based on the direction we're going. But just because you don't travel in a straight line does not mean you're not still on course. It only means the path is different. Continue to align your decisions to your goals, and you will reach the outcome you seek in your own unique way and time. So, how do you stay aligned? One, create a response for triggers that stand to derail you before you need them. In The War of Art, Stephen Pressfield states, our greatest distractions come at the time of our greatest change. The purpose of distraction is to test your resolve, though, seeing if you really want what you say you do, is to hone your focus and develop stamina for where you're headed next. It's a powerful thing to focus in a world increasingly clamoring for attention. But also, a side note regarding distraction: sometimes distractions are totally benign. They're not bad in and of themselves. They're just bad for you, or bad for you at this particular time. Two, close the door on comparison, double guessing, doubting yourself based on someone else's performance. Comparison causes us to lose focus and heart. There's joy in our own journey, so stay attentive to your race and the task at hand. Three, paralysis or hyperanalysis. We're in a time where a multitude of options now exist for just about everything. In a world of tools, free trials, special offers, DPE, or Decision Plan Execute, is of great value, and not only for tech stacks. When deciding on a resource or a tool, first, get clear on what you actually need and determine 3 or 4 features it must absolutely have. Only explore those options that meet all 3 or 4. Then, identify the top 3. Free trial 2 of those and rapid test them for 1 week. Cancel the one that doesn't perform, and also remember to cancel and delete all account info, unsubscribe from their email list to continue protecting your inbox. And then rapid trial with third option. Choose the one that works best, but if all are a fail, repeat. But at least you didn't become overwhelmed. Given technology, there's always going to be a better solution. The key is to find the right solution that best suits how you work right now. Lastly, the last letter. Waiting is a verb and not necessarily passive. So let's say the R is for resolving to stay ready. Ready is what you've implemented between preparation and alignment. It's the habits, routines, discarding what no longer works, supported by decisions and actions you continue to take to stay on track. All of this to position you for next steps and what's next. But to stay ready, we have to remain vigilant. A mind not derailed by negative self-talk that recognizes self-sabotage and countermeasures to respond to triggers. Fear shows up in many ways, and it actually can be a healthy response to keep us from danger. But left unfaced and unchecked, its attempt to protect you from the unknown can keep you mired in the familiar. Nothing changes unless we do. And just like there's healthy fear, there's also healthy risk. You have to reach a place where you feel the fear and do it anyway. Remove VDPs. People who like to be around us because we make them feel good, but they don't leave us feeling the same. I call these VDPs are very draining people. They bring their very draining habits, their very draining speech, drama, and situations, even into the brightest moments, so you can console them and they can repeat the cycle yet again. If you so decide, perhaps you can circle back in case they change at a later date. But for now, your time, energy is too valuable to allow it to continue to be consumed by where they are now. And it's okay to tell them so. Perhaps they never realized, or no one's cared enough to tell them so. Your honesty may be just the thing needed to prompt them on their own journey. And lastly, maintain open heart and hand, because opportunity does not pass through a clenched fist. There are numerous times during our lives that we serve as conduits. Contacts we make only to introduce them to someone else, resources received that are better utilized by another person. And even within our own need, we can't eat everything we see. But an area of perceived lack within our own lives is no reason to block the flow of generosity or solution in someone else's. Remain open-hearted, though it hurts. Open-handed, though you wonder when your time will come. You never know where your solution lies, and there's a good chance it may not be packaged as you thought. Just as things flow through conduits to others, something can also flow through to you. So neither block nor bottleneck be. So, are you on par? Thank you for listening to the In Her Company podcast. In Her Company is produced and hosted by me, Chris Vaughn, audio production by Magnum Opus, administration by Organized Chaos. A huge thanks to the whole entire In Her Company team and community of Catalysts for supporting the show. Connect with us on Instagram at inherco_. Join our Substack at inhercompany.substack.com. Or for more information about In Her Company, our guests, and our sponsorship, visit www.inherco.com.